hope you guys can hear me. I forgot my headphones today, of course. So if you can't, let me know. Someone let me know. Otherwise, you'll just have to read my lips the whole way or hope that my slides are really excellent. So give us a couple. Oh, hi. I see a couple of friends that I know on there. How are you guys? Good to see you. Hope you guys made it through COVID okay. Everybody's feeling okay. So I gave this same presentation about, God, it feels like 100 years ago in COVID times, probably about a year ago. And I knew I wanted to give it again this spring as everybody's like getting ready to go back into cycling. But then I got really excited and I added like a dozen slides. So I hope it's not too much for you guys. Instead of doing like a live demo, which is what I did last year, this year I added videos into the presentation so you guys can all go back in and sort of view it afterwards. So hopefully that's helpful and you don't hate it too much. I'm going to try to leave my little camera up on the corner as we go through it so that if you have any questions or if I need to demonstrate something, just throw your hand up or say something in the chat and I'll try to check in and make sure. So okay, I'm going to give this just a couple more seconds. Okay, I think I just, my last patient just left, so I didn't want to be shouting over them. So, hi, I'm Melissa at React Physical Therapy Lincoln Park. Today we're going to talk about mobility for cyclists. We're really like moving out of the indoor cycling era and into the road cycling era of as if the weather will ever participate. So I wanted to give you guys some pointers on like how to stay loose, what to work for, and like how to get started. So let me get my Zoom share. Okay. Okay, I'm going to leave my little chat up here just in case anyone has something so I can see it. If that annoys anyone, just let me know, but I don't really care. Okay, so why do cyclists need no mobility? Basically, we want to talk about basic body maintenance to maintain your season throughout the year and to prevent pain and injury. Why do cyclists need mobility? Cyclists, it's a really low impact sport, but unfortunately it does keep you in a position that's similar to the hours that you spend like this on your computer, like all you guys are now, or hunched over your phone or sitting on the sofa. So unfortunately, cycling will often recreate that. You know, we're on our Peloton for long hours or we're on our road bike for long hours. This hunched position can lead to shortened hip flexors, weak glutes and core, ineffective hamstrings, a flexed spine, rounded shoulders. Even if you train properly and your form is perfect, the very nature of cycling position will eventually start to create imbalance. Muscles do not naturally maintain their optimal length and joints do not maintain their full mobility on their own. In fact, the body will almost always take the path of least resistance, which means that it will adapt to the positions that you put it in and the positions you spend the most amount of time in. So now if we're doing cycling and then we're sitting at our desk and all those things, like we're in that position a lot. Stretching and strengthening should be thought of as basic body maintenance in general in any sport, especially for cyclists. If you don't put oil in your car, it's going to break down. If you don't maintain your gears and your derailleurs, it's going to break down. So if you don't maintain your body, it's going to break down. So low impact cycling. So you guys can see that. Cycling is low impact, which is great, but it is very repetitive. So if you train with Perform, it'll cause imbalances. This is literally just what I just said, so I don't need to review this for you guys. So what are the goals of mobility work? Your goals are improving your flexibility, improving your joint mobility and range of motion. You need to be able to push all of those joints through full range of motion, not only in the cycling motion, but also day to day. So you want to improve your muscle performance because the better that your joints move, the more available range of motion you have for those muscles to work in. So they will be able to give you a more efficient pedal stroke. They'll be able to keep you more comfortable. They'll be able to stabilize you in the saddle. They will decrease your risk of injury and it'll help you to speed recovery. So all of these things are why we do our mobility work. It's for performance, it's for injury maintenance, it's to improve your performance, it's to improve your recovery. what can benefit? So honestly, knee pain, low back pain, neck pain, hip pain, shoulder pain, everything else pain. Knee, low back, and neck pain are probably the most common that I see with my cyclists, but that doesn't preclude us from anything else. Question I get all the time is when to work on this? Like, when do I work on my mobility? So dynamic mobility before a ride, which is some of the things that you'll see that involve like stretching, mobility, moving your body in lots of ways. We'll go over these. This can help improve your performance by allowing your muscles to perform optimally. Regular mobility after riding will combat repetitive positions in the saddle and prevent injury. This is where we're talking about this is going to ease your recovery, ease your likeliness of injury. Soft tissue release like foam rolling or lacrosse ball where it can decrease soreness after a ride if you are doing speed work or if you had a particularly long training session, it can help speed your recovery time. So the answer is all of the times is the time to perform your mobility. And I think that you'll find that some of the dynamic mobility, which we'll go over, it just helps prime you before a ride. It's a good way to like warm up before your ride. It gets you moving in lots of different directions. And then the soft tissue work is a great way to improve, like to loosen yourself back up after your ride. I have a couple of you I know that do long distance rides and you do them after long hours in the car. So that can be like really challenging too. So, okay, so what tools to use? Oops, come back. Foam roller. The foam roller is great for large flat muscles like your thighs, your quads, your IT bands, your inner thighs. I like using it on the thoracic spine, the lats, the upper back. It's a good tool to cover a broad amount of area. And it's also a great way to like start the process. Then we use the lacrosse ball, which is great for the smaller trigger points, glutes, low back, calf, hamstrings, as well as pecs and the back of your shoulder. Smaller trigger point balls like a golf ball or the little spiky balls that sometimes people have. It's great for small spars like your arches of your feet or your shins. Does the order matter? I'm covering up the word matter, but does the order matter? Yes and no. The answer is that mobilizing shortened and overworked areas first will help you access more range of motion into the opposite direction. And a repeatable sequence will make it more likely that you'll actually do it at home. All bodies are different. If you find that yours wants to flip-flop the order, go for it. The way I organize these slides in here, we're going to go through the low body first. We're going to do some releases, then we're going to do some dynamic mobility. Then we're going to do the upper back. We're going to do some releases, some dynamic mobility. And then we're going to finish all up with some extra low back love. But again, like if you find like I got to loosen up my low back first and then everything comes after that, go for it. My body doesn't move like that. People tell me this all the time. Mobility work is really hard, particularly if you're not used to it. So day by day, you will become more pliable. You will find more range of motion. It's a long process. So give it time, give it practice, be patient. Took a lot of years of practice to get your body into this mess. I tell my patients often, like the story that you come to me with is you're coming in the last chapter. We have to then rewrite all those chapters that came before that. So give it time to relearn their patterns. Don't force it. Listen to your body. It will take time and it will come. Ground rolls, listen to your body. Inch closer to your mobility over time. Don't force it all on day one. You're just going to hurt yourself. You're going to strain something. You're going to hate me. It's going to be awful. Some stiffness is to be expected. That's normal. We're working on decreasing that, but don't work through any sharp pain. If you're feeling like sharp pain, particularly in the joints or in a spot in the low back, back off. A lot of times here at React, we say, go around it to get to it. So if you're doing a motion, you're like, this is not feeling good. Do all the rest of the mobility work in that area and then try again and see if it feels better. Or do all the rest of the moves and then next time try it again. We'll get there bit by bit. So let's inch towards it. Okay, so we're gonna start with hips, legs, and low back. Obviously, this is a huge amount of power work we're creating from our low body when we're on the bike. Hamstrings, quads, calves, glutes, it's a lot. And the reason you need to like keep this really nice and moving is because a stable pelvis is super important to prevent back pain while cycling. So if you're rocking or flopping side to side, you're going to create a lot of overuse of the low back muscles, which increases forces through your spine. So you need a strong core and super mobile hips to be able to create the power you want without compromising your back. So let's see. Okay, so let's start with some soft tissue releases. So here's my lovely friend, John. So what we do is we take the ball and we find a firm surface. We put the ball underneath the hamstring. And with all of my soft tissue releases, I like to tell people, I need you to move through the motion, okay? So sit on your chair wherever you are right now, put this underneath the hamstring. Any tender spot, there's not really a right or wrong area, but then you're just gonna kick it up and down. So moving your leg up and down like you see John doing is gonna help those muscles contract and relax through that range of motion that may be painful. It's going to help decrease guarding, improve your body's like threshold for discomfort. And it's gonna really like down regulate your nervous system to decrease that neural tone in the area. So first, start with the hamstring. Next, calf release. Same thing. I like people to use the ball here, put it right underneath your calf, okay? And then fish that foot up and down. People can do it on the ground, you can do it on the chair. Sometimes every now and then people are like, oh, this isn't enough. And I have people cross one leg over the other, like this guy is doing, to give yourself a little bit more force. If you have a foam roller and that's all you have, you can do this on a foam roller. Next. Okay. So this is the quad and IT band. So in this video, I'm going to show you the next one first, actually, because I think it makes more sense if I go to the next one first. So first, we're going to start with the front of the quad, and we're going to go in 3 areas here. You can see as we lay down on the foam roller, we kick up and down. I tell people, give yourself about 5 or 10 kicks per location to make sure you're kind of getting through all those trigger points. If you get to a spot that like feels super tight, you can spend a little bit more time there. However, I don't want you to just beat the crap out of this for hours, because all that's going to do is cause more soft tissue trauma, and you're probably just going to get more sore. So move your way through it, spend a little bit more time on each spot. But honestly, if you're spending about 60 seconds on your thigh, you're doing great. Then what you can see in this picture is Robin here has rolled over to the side to get more of that lateral quad and IT band. I tell people this is tricky because if you're just laying directly on your IT band, right on the side here, all that's ever going to do is just really hurt. So you gotta kind of roll from the front over to like a 45-degree angle and then keep kicking, because you really want to be fishing that quad muscle in and out from underneath the IT band. When you pause and you get a tender spot, kick up and down, keep moving, keep rolling side to side. This is it's supposed to be dynamic. So next, so this is a glute release. So this one here, Robbie's laying on the ball and he's gonna drop his knee out to the side. Be cautious when you do this with direct center pressure in the glute, because right over the sciatic nerve can be really sensitive. So do not mash the crap out of your sciatic nerve. That will only hurt. Make sure that you're placing the ball out to the side a little bit. In this next video, I'm gonna show you how to do it. So this is Kaylee, and she's going to do this on the wall instead. So you can see what we're gonna do is we're gonna take the ball and we're gonna find like not right in the middle, but a little higher in the hip, lean into the wall, and then bob your knee out side to side. I like this variation because it allows me to control the force that's going through the ball. When I lay flat on the ground with the glute, that is a lot for me. My glutes are tight, my hips are tight. So I can't take this fully lying down pressure. I need this variation where I can lean into the wall and give myself a little bit. Now, that said, she has it right on the back of her hip, mostly more glute max. If you are tighter here, you can sort of move it down a little bit towards the back of the leg, and that will give you a little bit of a different angle on that. Okay, so those are the releases: hamstring, glute, calf, quad. Okay, kind of gone all around 360 around the leg. So now we get into our dynamic mobility. So this is the half kneeling hip flexor stretch. Lots of you have done this. It's sort of like a kneeling lunge in yoga, but what the difference is we're going to take it out of our lunging forward and pull it into the hips. So you're going to use the foam roller to help you balance if you need. You're going to squeeze your glutes, take your tailbone, and then you're going to kind of push and then reach. So here's Alexis. So as you bring that knee down, I want you to really tuck that hip under. So you're going to squeeze your butt to really tuck that hip under, which will get it into the front of your hip flexor rather than just lunging into hip extension. She here has added a reach, which is also a really nice way to get some additional mobility. That hip flexor runs along one side of your spine into the front of your thigh bone. And so when you add that reach over, you're just adding another plane of motion into that stretch. Also, if you are feeling great, and this is super easy, what I will often have people do is I will have them prop a yoga block right here underneath their foot. Then you can get a little bit more quad into it, but that's pretty intense. So maybe start here. Okay, adductor rock back. This is for the inner thighs. So we opened up the front of the leg. Now we're gonna open up the inside of the leg. There's some instructions in case you can't tell what I'm doing in the video. So here, prop this foot out, get on all fours, and just rock back. This seems like not a lot, but you're actually getting a ton of opening into the inside of the leg. And then you're also getting some nice hip flexion in the front. That'll open the glute up as well. Okay, modified figure. I know I'm going through these fast. I told you I added a lot of slides. I got really excited. Modified figure 4. So pigeon is a favorite of ours in yoga, but it is super inaccessible to many people. And I see so many people all day long doing this wrong. So I like to give modifications. So often when I see people doing a figure 4, I see people crossing this leg here, holding underneath here and hugging it to your chest. Unless you have crazy mobile hips, that is really hard to not cheat. You're gonna kick one hip up, kick the other side up, and it almost never works. So I'm gonna give you 2 options here. So here on this one, this is my favorite. You're gonna come up to the wall, you're gonna drop that leg over, and then you're gonna slide the other leg down. So here you can see, you can control where this hip goes, and then you can use your hand to push down on that knee, push that knee away from you, rather than hugging your lifted leg knee to your chest. So this will control where your hips are in space and allow you to access a little bit more in there. And then Kaylee's pretty flexible, but you can scoot up and down closer or farther from the wall to accommodate where your hip is. Sometimes you're not very far. That's totally okay. This one is closer to a pigeon, which we would do in yoga, but we're gonna do it up on a table. Same idea, because if we're up on a table, we can kind of adjust our trunk position, our foot position, our leg position in order to make this more accessible, more comfortable for us, while still getting that good deep hip flexion that we're kind of craving when we're on the ground. If you can do a full pigeon on the ground, that is great. Power to you. Okay, this one's my favorite. Walk your dog. So here's the tricky part about this is a hamstring and calf stretch, but it also requires a lot of low back mobility. So bend your knees. This is not about your back. This one is about your legs. We often use downward dog for unloading the spine and shoulder mobility, but for this one, I really want you to think about getting into your legs. So bend your knees as much as you need to get this a stretch. So come here into your downward dog position. Again, I'm relatively flexible in my hamstrings, at least I am in this video, which was taken not today. You're just gonna come up and down, walking gently. But you can see as my legs come straight, my low back wants to bend a little bit. So if I keep that straightened leg a little bit more bent, I can get into that low back just a little bit. So bend as you need to, adjust your arms as you need to. If this isn't super comfortable, honestly, you could do this like leaning on a table or walking up and down that way. So. Okay, what's next? Okay. Hey, what's my picture? I'm sure I stole that from a Peloton commercial. I don't know who that person is, but he looks really intense. So neck, shoulders, and upper back. So neck, shoulders, and upper back, even off the bike, neck pain is caused by rounded shoulders and a stiff upper back. We're like this all day long. This is so hard on our neck. It's terrible on our neck discs. It's terrible on everything. It gives us headaches, gives us back pain, gives us shoulder pain. The ability to tap into your lat strength and keep your trunk stable will allow you to keep a better head position and give you a ton more power through the core, like we talked about that flopping pelvis while riding. I was going somewhere with that, but I forgot. So let's move on. So same thing we're going to do. We're going to go over some soft tissue releases. We're going to go over some foam rolling, some angels, I threw in some upper back and some cervical spine into this. So, okay, pec release. People ask about this all the time. Here's Kaylee. We just left, ironically. I made her videotape all these and then she had to leave for it. So when you are looking for your pec release, right, you're kind of coming from right where the pec attaches on your arm bone, and we're coming right into the meat of that muscle there. Okay, like if you were to kind of like punch up and down, you could feel that pec. Place this ball right here, and then you're going to get up into a doorway or onto a wall or something like that. And I want you to move through it. Pec moves your arm in lots of planes of motion. So find what's comfortable for you and move through it. If you don't have doorway, if you don't have wall, if this feels crazy uncomfortable for you, then just jam it in there and go for it this direction, okay? I want firm pressure into the muscle, and then I want you moving through it. Again, just like everything else, I want doing some dynamic mobility to floss that muscle through that deep pressure. After you've done that, I love doorway stretch as a pec stretch. This is just, it's a nice way to get into the pecs. You step forward a little bit, just lean into it. You can adapt this however your mobility is. Some people like their arms up in a goalpost position. Some people just want their arms down by their sides. Whatever is comfortable for you and your body. If you have pain in the front of the shoulder, pinching, etc., don't bring it up so high. Do one arm, bring it down by the side. You're not winning by doing it the way we do in the video. You're winning by listening to your body and inching to success. Okay, Latin teres release. I love this one. I probably would have put this actually before the pec stretch, but irrelevant. Sometimes this is really uncomfortable for people and they can't quite figure out how to get into it. So I'm going to show you the video and then I'm going to kind of show you on my body. So I like to call this area where the lat is, I have kind of a drapey shirt. So honestly, even if you imagine this would be my lat attaching from my arm bone back into the back of my pelvis. So this area here, if you stick your finger in your armpit and you wrap it around, I call this the meat wing. That's a lot of your rotator cuff, your teres, your lat, all coming from your back and your shoulder blade up to attach into the arm bone. So what you're trying to do is you're trying to get your foam roller sort of down off that right on the side here. It's not like if you come right here, you're gonna be right on your rib cage. You're just scrub up and down your ribs. So that's just not really good feel. If you come too far on the back, then you're just on your back muscles. Not bad, but not exactly what we're going for. So you want to get this sort of like in between angled area, just underneath the shoulder, like really where that meaty area is, right here in the back. And it comes from really just below your arm bone, all the way down your side to where it attaches to the back of your hip. So it's quite a bit of area. So here is my lovely assistant again, Kaylee. So here's again her meat wing. So you kind of roll onto your side here. And what I like to do is first do a couple of passes up and down, just like warm up the area, find where your tight spots are. And then go for it, just move your arm around. Up and down, sawing motion, rotating in this direction. There's a lot of muscles in that area. The lat is a shoulder extensor, it's a humeral depressor, the teres is a rotator. So there's a lot of things going on in there. So you can't really go in the wrong direction if you are just kind of looking for those trigger points for yourself. Okay, foam roller angels. These are one of my favorites. I think that these feel so delightful after a long ride. That when I get off the bike, the first thing I want to do is just open up this direction. And someday I will probably do it in on-bike mobility, because this is actually something that I do quite often during my endurance rides. Is just to keep myself open, keep my head back. I'll work on these just in an upright position, but you guys don't want to hear the music we were listening to. It was real bad. So lay down on the foam roller the long way here, right? All along your spine. Make sure your head is supported so it's not floating around out in space. Alexis here is Alexis is a power lifter, so she's actually a little tight in the shoulders. This is a great example of a variation, whereas some people may have more mobility in the shoulders and can actually come like straight up overhead and straight down and back. Ideally, you're trying to get your arms as close to the ground as you can as you come up and down in this W position. And this is what I was saying when you're on the bike. I love this if I'm like stopping to have a snack or take a drink of water. I'll just stand over my bike and honestly like just do a couple of angels, driving my shoulder blades down and back, up and down, just to kind of open myself back up. It allows me to be much more aware of what I'm doing with my arms, because as the hours wear on, we get tired and we lose our form and lose our position. And even just a little bit of like bringing some awareness to that with these angels, you're like, oh my gosh, I am punching like crazy. I got to get back out of that. So femoral thoracic extension. This is thoracic extension and rotation. I cannot stress enough how important this is for pretty much every movement in the body, for pretty much every athlete. Overhead athletes, cyclists, swimmers, weightlifters, yoga, pretty much anything you do with your body, you need to be able to extend your thoracic spine and rotate your thoracic spine. Because if you cannot get your back into an upright position like this, you have no chance of getting your arms up over your head, and it gets your head way forward like this. If I'm here and I try to lift my arms up, I quite literally cannot lift my arms any higher than that without running into my own acromion, and that hurts. That causes rotator cuff impingement. It causes cuff tears, pec pain, neck pain, all kinds of crazy things. So do your rotation and your extensions. So femoral thoracic extension. Oh, Dave. Hi, Dave. Dave moved to Colorado. We miss him. So you're going to put your femoral the long way across your back and keep your butt down on the ground. That's key. I like people to latch their fingers behind their head and then bring your elbows together like this, okay? The reason we do that, the reason we latch and bring together is because if my elbows are together and I extend up, this happens in my upper back. If my elbows are apart and I extend up, a lot of times, people like me, possibly people like you, will just bring their neck back. Well, that's fine. I like you to have a cervical extension. This is for thoracic extension in your upper back. So I really need you to kind of fulcrum it into that area. So here's another one that I really like. This one is a great keeper for when you're at your desk, actually, because this is easy to do from a seated position with your elbows on your desk. So honestly, if you're tight during the day and like you're going riding that afternoon, or if you did a really hard Peloton session in the morning and you're like feeling super stiff, you can throw this in at any point. I put this on the bench here just because you can get a little bit more full body here.
Ready?
Oh, she's ready. But same idea as we did before. Latch your hands behind your head, bring your elbows as close together as you can, and then just sit back into it. If you're doing it on the bench, you're trying to drop your chest down towards the ground as far as you can to sort of spread those collarbones open and extend into that back. This is one of my favorite stretches. I love it. Okay, open books, I give these people all the time. These are a little easier. You just lay on your side with one knee on the foam roller. If you don't need your knee on the foam roller, you can do that, but I sort of like to, I will show you a supine twist later in the segment. This one focuses a little bit more on the chest and the upper back, whereas if you get into a full supine twist, you get more hip and low back rotation. So open books here. She stacks up. She opens up. You can see she rolls back just a little bit. She's a little bit stiff maybe in rotation here, or maybe I just made her do this at 6 in the morning. Entirely possible. But open all the way up. Follow with your head if you can, as far as you can. Like don't wrench your neck into it, but this is a nice way to encourage like full body rotation. Again, same thing. A lot of times on the bike, we're kind of like cramped into this position. We don't do a lot of rotating, but you should look for cars, don't get hit. Next option is open books at the wall. This is now we're going to start to get your upper body spinning, and then we're going to start working down into the hips a little bit more. You're going to use this as a full body motion. The twisting should really come from your whole torso and then be stabilized by your hips. Oh, it's me. So here, my goal is to try to keep that front leg stable. I don't want to drag that front leg back and around with me as I open up into this rotation. Okay. I also don't want that front leg to collapse in towards the wall. I'm literally trying to open those as far as I can to open up my pecs, but I'm also driving this with my abs, my lats, everything from basically the waist up. Love this as a dynamic mobility. I think this gets a lot of birds with one stone. A lot of those in this example. Oh, this is everyone's least favorite. So neck retraction extension. This is great for anyone who has ever had any sort of nerve pain or stiffness in the neck that you just can't get rid of. You wake up with a stiff neck in the morning. This is a great one. We should probably all be working on this. It's also, luckily for you, it's one of the most flattering demonstrations ever known in mankind. You're gonna sit up as stiff as you can. And in the video, you can see I'm in a bad position here again, because I'm kind of in the middle of the room. But ideally, I want you to have sitting in a chair. So your chair can sort of stabilize your mid back here as you retract into it. So I'll show you. So here, ideally, I would love to be sitting in like a dining chair that was stabilizing my upper thoracic spine here. But then from this position, you tuck your chin, so flattering. Tuck your chin all the way back as many times, 5, 10 times, until you're gonna start feeling like, oh, this is gonna loosen up a little bit. Sometimes people will have to start here. And sometimes this is as far as you're gonna get for a while. Eventually, you'll be able to drop your head all the way back. So retract all the way back first, here, and then drop it all the way up to the ceiling. We should all have this range of motion. It's not abnormal. I promise your head's not gonna fall off. It may be very stiff because we spend so much time like this, okay? Once you get really well, you'll see I added a couple of like little head nods at the end. That would be sort of like the end goal. This seems scary. I promise it's not. You'll get there. Okay, as promised, a little bit of, this guy's also very intense. Ooh, love these stock photos, don't you? So the last thing we're gonna do is just a little bit of extra low back. So cat-cow, child's pose with a side bend, prone press up, which I'm gonna describe. It's kind of like a lazy cobra pose in yoga, and then this full supine twist. Cat-cow, most of you guys know what this is, okay? So here is a video. So here's some things that I like to point out with cat-cow. When you're going through this motion, I really want you to start this at your pelvis. So I want you to start tucking your tailbone under, tuck, 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 until you run out of space. So you're gonna really, really tuck, 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 until you run out of space. And then you're gonna come through that upper back, push through those hands, round that upper back. Then you're just gonna reverse the motion. Extend, extend, extend. I want you flossing your shoulder blades up and down through this. I want you moving your thoracic spine through this, but then I also want that butt and that lower spine moving. Too often I see people doing this and they're only moving through the upper back. They're basically only like humping and arching back and forth like that. So make sure you get like a really nice, Janelle does a great job of demonstrating here. She gets like really tucks that tailbone underneath here, and then she brings that tailbone back up to the sky to get some lumbar arch. Child's pose with a side bend. So the key to this, so you're gonna come into your regular, I somehow missed the video of the regular side child's pose. But the key to this is what you're really trying to do is you're trying to get a long side body, much like our hip flexor stretch. We're trying to lengthen all the way out as we side bend. We sit back on our hips, we lengthen that long, lean side body to get some stretch through the whole spine. Sit up, slide back, pull back through it. You, of course, can do regular child's pose because who doesn't love child's pose? Okay, prone press up. I call this lazy cobra because it is different than a yoga cobra where we are very engaged. We keep our feet on the ground, we engage our low bodies, we keep our glute and trunk really stable. In this one, you're going to use totally dead lower body. Your hips and legs are heavy. The point of this is to extend your lower spine after long hours curled over on the bike. So Kaylee does a really nice job of this here. So you can see all of this is nice and loose. She's trying to keep this as relaxed as possible. and she's just pushing straight through her arms to create this sort of fulcrum at the low back. I have people do this about 10 times. You can increase your range of motion each time, bit by bit. And then the last couple, if you lock your elbows out, take a big deep belly breath, and then sag into it, you're gonna get a little bit extra fulcrum. A lot of times people like to do this and then they like to do a little like child's pose afterwards, because sometimes that full extension just feels a little crowded. That's totally fine with me. If you have sciatica, radiculopathy, pain down the legs, etc., we probably need to talk in the first situation. You probably need to come and talk to me about that. But we may have a directional preference, in which case I don't want you to arch into it. But if you're doing just general spinal mobility, this is great. Supine twist. So this is what I was saying, that this is the progression of an open book. After your book is well opened, this will get more of the side of your hip and the low back. So you're going to bend your top leg, extend your bottom leg. I'll show you the video because it's more fun then. So you're going to bend that top leg. You're going to drop it over this way. So what you might want is that bottom hip there. You can scoot it closer towards the camera, so you have just a little bit more space to roll over into it. You can use your top hand as a weight, etc. This is a great one to use deep breathing. I was literally just having this conversation with a patient a minute ago, where if in this position, if you do a really nice deep breath and then let it out, it will help to like sort of desensitize the nervous system. It allows more relaxation, space in the spine, gives you a lot more range of motion without jamming, forcing, twisting. Don't ever jam, force, twist into any of these in the low back. Oh. Okay, so that's all I have. Even if you train properly and your form is perfect, the nature of cycling is hard on your body, okay? It will eventually start to change you, particularly if it's the only sport you do. Multi-sport athletes often have a bit more well-rounded protocol, and they see a little bit less stiffness, but still, even if you're a triathlete, we are mostly just moving in a straight plane. We swim in a straight plane, we run in a straight plane, we bike in a straight plane. And while we have a little bit more variation in our body, we don't do a lot of other directions. So the flexed hips, hand forward, head up is slowly but surely going to lead to imbalances in your musculature. And you have to work to counteract this to prevent pain and injury and to improve performance. If you're always battling your own body, you're never going to be able to train it effectively. And on the flip side, remember, mobility is practice too. So keep at it, keep inching towards the finish line. You will see progress eventually, I promise. Have a good ride. I got a new bike since I took this picture, so nobody judge me. I really loved this bike. If you guys want more, I have tons of releases and exercises available on our YouTube page. Just search for React Physical Therapy. We actually just launched a brand new app. It's awesome. It's called Body Engineering by React, which has tons of videos. We will hopefully be uploading some cycling directed content on that as well. If you have specific questions, I have answers. Come in, do a free injury screen with me, a consult. Feel free to email me or DM me on Instagram. I'm Melissa Luety, DPT. Or you can find me at mluety@breact.com. I'll put my thing on the next screen so you can see that, so people can share it. Let's see, do I have it on here? Our React email is react@reactpt, so you can also find me there. Here's my email. Again, I'm at the Lincoln Park Clinic. We're right at North and Clybourne by the Apple Store here in Lincoln Park. Oh, good, little chat. Let me stop my screen sharing. If you guys have any questions, I would love to answer them. I am here. Oh, hi, Corey. How are you? Good to see you. I miss you. I think that's all I have for you guys. So I realized that I went through all of those things really quickly. It was a lot of information, but that's why I was hoping that if I gave you more videos and talked you through them, you could stop through the videos and figure them out bit by bit and pause them and replay them as you needed to. If you want, drop me a line and I'll email like a whole link to all of these videos on the YouTube page or on the website or something like that. But okay, guys. Thanks. Have a great night. High five.